$10 million. That is what some companies spend on their security systems. Motion sensors, high-definition cameras, biometric scanners, electronic access control panels that cost $3,000 per door. State-of-the-art, everything. And then someone walks up with a piece of bent wire that costs $40, slides it under the door, pulls a string, click, they are inside. Every lock bypassed, every sensor avoided, every camera recording nothing but an empty hallway. The tool fits in a backpack. You can buy it on Amazon. Hundreds sold every month. The security industry does not want you thinking about this, but in 2022, physical penetration testers breached 93% of corporate networks they targeted. Average time to get inside, 4 days. The weak point was not the firewall, not the encryption, not the $1 million surveillance system. It was the door. More specifically, it was the gap under the door, the one required by law. We build access control networks that start at $1,500 minimum just for the hardware. And then we install lever door handles because the law says we have to. The Americans with Disabilities Act, signed in 1990, changed everything about commercial door hardware. The law is clear. Door handles must be operable with one hand. No tight grasping, no pinching, no twisting of the wrist, maximum 5 pounds of force to operate. That means no round doorknobs. Round knobs require you to grip and twist. They fail the ADA test, so every commercial building in America uses lever handles now. Push down with your elbow, your forearm, even your hip. Anyone can open them, including the wire tool sliding underneath your door. The ADA also requires doors to have adequate clearance underneath. 1/2 inch maximum for most doors, 3/4 of an inch for existing doors if beveled correctly. Fire codes push that gap even larger in some cases. The gap exists for airflow, for ADA compliance, for building codes that have been on the books for 3 decades, and that gap is exactly tall enough to slide a tool through. The tool has a name in the security industry, under the door tool, UTDT for short. Some companies call it the stretcher, others call it the reach around. Red Team Tools sells one for about $70. Sparrow's Lockpicks has their version. KSXE Labs ships theirs worldwide. Covert Instruments makes a premium model with a quick detached storage system. You can find them on Amazon, hundreds of different models. Some ship from China for $20. Professional versions run up to $150. They all work the same way. Then you rotate your hand so the rod goes vertical inside the room. Gravity takes over. The top of the rod falls toward the lever handle. The wire loops over the handle. You pull the string or the ring. The wire tightens. The lever handle gets pulled down. The latch disengages. The door opens. Total time from start to finish, 15 to 30 seconds if you know what you're doing. Maybe 2 minutes if it is your first try. No lockpicking required. No drilling, no damage, no noise. The security cameras see nothing suspicious. Just someone bending down by a door for 30 seconds. Maybe they're tying their shoe. Maybe they dropped something. By the time security reviews the footage, the person is already inside, already at the server room, already planting a network implant on the internal corporate network, already walking out with proprietary data on a USB drive. Testing white papers published by Asaka in 2023, showing that 74% of breaches involve the human element. TrustedSec, March 2025, but analysis of physical security flaws and the positive technologies. 2022 report revealing 93% network breach rates through local access. We also reference Charleston Security Systems. June 2025, documentation, SEVNX Consultancy. January 2025, protected door tool analysis, Polera Technologies. October 2025, real-world testing lessons, and multiple 2024 and 2025 security industry publications on commercial access control vulnerabilities, including sources from Dark Reading, LBMC, Bright Defense, and physical penetration testing methodology, papers from Pinkerton, Shellman, and PurpleSec, published between July 2025 and October 2025. Now back to the information. Anyone can buy them. No license required, no background check, no questions asked. Type underdoor tool into any search engine, dozens of results, e-commerce sites, lockpicking supply stores, security tool retailers. Some sites show you exactly how to use the tool with demonstration videos, step-by-step instructions, tips for different door configurations, advice on which models work best for various handle types. One company even sells a concealment belt that hides a custom under-door tool inside a hollow leather belt. Price? Around $120. The marketing copy is direct. Carry a slim but effective underdoor tool concealed on your person at all times. Designed for field operators, red team professionals, penetration testers who need covert entry capabilities without carrying a backpack. A basic commercial security system installation runs $1,500 to $3,000 for a small business. One location, basic package. For a medium-sized office building, you are looking at $10,000 to $50,000. That includes cameras, sensors, access control, monitoring equipment. For a large corporate facility or high security location, $100,000 to several $1 million. Companies spend 21% of their security budget on network security alone, according to 2021 statistics. Video surveillance systems for commercial properties range from $4,000 to $9,000 for basic setups. High-end systems push past $10,000 easily. Each camera costs $500 to $2,000 depending on resolution and features. Recording systems run $3,000 to $25,000 depending on storage requirements. Access control systems? Minimum $1,500 just for the hardware. Each card reader, each electronic strike plate, each door sensor. Multiply that across every entrance, every secure room, every restricted area. Add the installation labor, the monthly monitoring fees that run $50 to $300. The annual maintenance contracts at $500 to $2,000. The software licensing that can hit $10,000 annually for enterprise systems. Otherwise, penetration testers just unscrew them and continue. Door bottom sweeps that eliminate the clearance. Handle guards that block the wire from reaching behind the lever. Rotating the handle 90 degrees so it points up instead of horizontal. Some facilities install handles at angles that make them harder to hook. But here is the reality check. Most buildings do not have these protections. The security industry sells access control. Cameras, sensors, monitoring. They sell $1 million packages. They do not want to talk about the fact that a $40 tool defeats it all, because that conversation hurts sales. It raises uncomfortable questions. If physical access is this easy, why are we spending millions on network security? If someone can walk in with a wire tool, why do we need biometric scanners? 2022. ProVigil research showed 28% of respondents saw increased physical security incidents, up from 20% in 2020. Verizon's 2023 data breach investigations. Report found 74% of breaches involve the human element. Social engineering, physical access, errors, misuse. The 2022 Positive Technologies report on corporate network penetration testing showed pen testers breached 96% of companies, accessed local networks in 93% of cases. Average penetration time for internal networks? 2 days, not 2 months, not 2 weeks, 2 days. Physical penetration tests consistently reveal that security failures come from the overlap of human behavior, procedural gaps, and technical weaknesses. Apolera Technologies, October 20 to 25. Analysis detailed a real engagement. Target was a corporate data center, the crown jewels protected with a strike plate guard. The door had a poor seal. The penetration tester deployed an under-the-door tool, bypassed the lock entirely, got unrestricted access to core IT infrastructure. Total time? Minutes, not hours. Minutes. Until a skilled tester devised a pretext and gained unauthorized access. The tester posed as an employee from a different office, triggered the alarm on purpose by manipulating the outer door of a double doorman trap at the entrance. Several employees emerged to investigate. The tester claimed to be a remote employee whose badge was not working. Employees shut off the alarm, provided a visitor badge, gave access to a conference room. The tester obtained an additional visitor badge from an unsecured drawer at reception, returned the issued badge. This allowed return visits at will in following days, full facility access, access to internal network, established persistence on the domain, all from one social engineering moment combined with poor physical security procedures. The underdoor tool was not even needed in that case, but it would have worked just as well. Hotels are a special case. Las Vegas, 2021, multiple room heists while guests were sleeping. Police reports describe doors opening from the inside around 1:49 a.m. No record of someone entering from outside. Security expert Adam Coffrin explained how you could have easily used an under-the-door tool, a tool that slides underneath the door that allows the door mechanism to be opened from the inside, which would also bypass the deadbolt. Wynn Las Vegas, Encore Tower Suites. Private access requiring keycards, elevator access requiring more keycards. Very secure location, guests thought, until someone got in anyway. 10 minutes later, a second room got hit. Same method. The tools are marketed to hotels legitimately. When card readers malfunction, when guests lock themselves out, when there is a medical emergency inside a room with the latch engaged. But that same tool becomes a theft tool in the wrong hands. Multiple security researchers have documented the vulnerability. One KSAT San Antonio investigation in 2021 featured a former thief named Mark, over a decade of burglary, more than 100 houses. His method, wire cutters for alarm systems, door pushing to find unsecured entries, social engineering to blend in. And he mentioned under-door tools as a known technique for commercial buildings. Nobody's arguing we should remove them. But the security industry needs to acknowledge the trade-off. You cannot have ADA-compliant lever handles with proper clearance underneath the door and pretend those doors are secure without additional physical barriers. The U.S. Access Board guidelines are specific. Hardware must be operable with one hand without tight grasping, pinching, or twisting. Lever handles comply. U-shaped pulls comply. Push-type mechanisms comply. Round doorknobs do not comply. They require twisting. Building codes reinforce this. Commercial facilities must meet ADA standards. Residential units and mixed-use buildings must meet ADA standards. Public accommodations must meet ADA standards. State and local governments must meet ADA standards. That means virtually every commercial door in America installed after January 26, 1992 has a lever handle. And most doors installed before that date were retrofitted to comply during renovations. Fire codes often require even more clearance for airflow and smoke ventilation. Building settlement and foundation shifts can increase gaps over time. Older buildings rarely have perfect door fits. That half inch becomes 5/8, 3/4, sometimes a full inch in poorly maintained buildings. The wider the gap, the easier the tool insertion. Some doors have such large gaps you could slide a ruler underneath. Those doors take 10 seconds to bypass. No skill required, just slide the tool in, loop it over, pull, done. Pinkerton's white paper on on-site penetration testing discusses pretext scenarios that lead to tool deployment. Shellman's commercial physical penetration services specifically test door bypass capabilities. Purple Sec in July 2025 detailed 13 physical penetration testing methods. Underdoor tools made the list. The technique is not obscure. It is not advanced. It is entry-level physical penetration testing. First week training material for red team operators. Companies keep learning this the hard way. An organization spends $100,000 on security infrastructure. Cameras covering every angle, access control on every door, intrusion sensors in every room. Then they hire a penetration testing firm to evaluate their security posture. The testers arrive, do reconnaissance, map the perimeter, identify entry points, watch employee patterns. Then they walk up to a side door during lunch rush, slide the tool under, open the door, walk in behind a group returning from lunch, blend in. Nobody stops them. Nobody questions them. They look like they belong. Clipboard. Polo shirt with a fake company logo, confident walk. That combination defeats human security better than any credential. Now you have persistent network access. Install a keylogger on a workstation in an empty conference room, capture credentials, access the file server, copy sensitive documents, extract customer data, download intellectual property, all because of the gap under the door in a $40 tool. The financial damage from a single breach, IBM Security's 2023 cost of a data breach report put the average at $4.45 million. That is for cybersecurity breaches. Physical breaches where someone gets hands on keyboard access, the damage can be worse. They bypass network security. They bypass encryption. They have direct access to systems behind the firewall. They can install backdoors that persist for months. They can exfiltrate data directly to USB drives, avoiding network detection. They can photograph documents. They can access executive computers. They can compromise the entire domain controller if they get to the server room. But they installed light-duty models to save money. The brush type, the vinyl type, those compress when you apply pressure. The tool still slides through, just requires a bit more force. Some facilities rotated their handles 90 degrees. Good mitigation. But they only did it on server room doors, high security areas. They ignored the rest of the building. Penetration testers get in through the unprotected side door, walk through internal corridors. Now all the rotated handles do not matter because they are on the interior side, where anyone inside has access anyway. Defense in depth means protecting every layer, not just the valuable targets. In 2022, security researchers Leonard Wouters and Ian Carroll with their team discovered the unsaflock vulnerability. They could forge key cards that opened any room in a hotel. Using a $300 RFID read-write device, a Proxmark 3, a Flipper 0, even an NFC-capable Android phone. The method required obtaining any key card from the target hotel. Read a certain code from that card. Write 2 forged key cards. Tap the first card to rewrite lock data. Tap the second card to open it. They disclosed this to Dormakaba in September 2022. Met with company representatives at least 14 times. Hotels began upgrading systems in November 2023, but millions of locks remained vulnerable for over a year. And that is just the electronic bypass. The underdoor tool still works regardless. Electronic lock or mechanical lock. Does not matter. The tool bypasses the entire locking mechanism by operating the handle from inside. Criminals later exploited this for hotel thefts. The F-Secure VinCard master key hack in 2018. Researchers created master keys for ASA Abloy locks using discarded or expired guest key cards. Massive security flaws exposed. And in every case, the electronic locks were the focus, the high-tech solutions. But a low-tech wire tool bypassed everything just as effectively. Hotels responded with better encryption. Stronger key derivation algorithms, firmware updates. But they did not address the physical layer. The gap under the door remained. The lever handle remained. the fundamental vulnerability remained. It devastates the illusion that locked doors mean secure spaces. The tool slips quickly and quietly underneath a door and manipulates the handle from the inside. No complex skills required. A teenager could learn this in 10 minutes. Physical penetration testers use these tools routinely. Success rates are high. In a September 2024 blog post, cyber advisors demonstrated bypass techniques for commercial buildings. The underdoor tool worked perfectly for interior corridor hotels, for office buildings with ADA-compliant doors, for data centers with lever handles, for conference rooms, storage rooms, server rooms, any door with a lever and a gap. The only failures came from doors with proper threshold guards installed correctly, or doors with handle shrouds blocking access, or doors with no gap at all. Maybe 10% of doors tested had adequate protection, 90% were vulnerable. That is the gap in corporate security. We focus on the digital threats, the ransomware, the phishing, the zero-day exploits. We forget that someone can walk up and open the door with a piece of wire. Once they are inside, all the digital security becomes less relevant. They are behind the perimeter, behind the firewall, on the trusted internal network. From there, lateral movement is easy. Most internal networks have weak segmentation. Once you're in everywhere. Access to file shares, printers, workstations, servers, databases, all of it accessible from inside. Does not work if the handle is rotated 90 degrees. Does not work on push-bar exits with no exterior handle. Does not work on doors with automatic closers that are properly adjusted and have no gap. Does not work if someone installed a threshold guard correctly from the secure side with rivets. But here's the thing. Most doors do not have these protections. According to testing data from multiple physical penetration firms, 90 to 95% of commercial doors tested in 2024 and 2025 were bypassable with underdoor tools. That is not a typo. 90 to 95%. The tools work almost everywhere because nobody thinks about this vulnerability. Security teams focus on access control systems, on the card readers, on the credentials, on the authentication. They do not think about the physical mechanism, the lever, the gap, the simple physics of reaching under and pulling. Security consultancies use them. A must-have for any security professional. The tools are $40 to $150. The security systems they bypass cost thousands to millions of dollars. That return on investment is absurd. If you are a bad actor, why bother with sophisticated hacking? Why develop zero-day exploits? Why fish for credentials? Why brute force passwords? Just buy a $40 tool. Walk up to the building. Find a side door or back entrance away from the main security desk. Wait for nobody to be watching. Deploy the tool, open the door, walk in like you own the place. Confidence matters more than credentials. Independent security evaluators ran assessments documented in 2024 showing similar results. Rapid7's physical penetration testing practice includes door bypass techniques as standard methodology. Companies pay these firms tens of thousands of dollars to test their security, and the firms write detailed reports explaining how they got in, step by step. Tools used, techniques deployed, recommendations for hardening. But many companies do not implement the recommendations. They read the report, they acknowledge the findings, they thank the penetration testing team, then they do nothing. Physical security recommendations get deprioritized. We will install threshold guards next quarter. We will upgrade to handle shrouds next year. We will address the door gaps during the next renovation. Meanwhile, the vulnerability remains, wide open, waiting for someone to exploit it. But information spreads. Once a technique is public, it stays public. Underground communities share it, criminals learn it, and the tool itself is not illegal. Possessing lockpicks requires a license in some states, but underdoor tools? No restrictions. They are sold openly, shipped internationally, anyone can buy them. The legal system has not caught up with the security implications. Fire departments carry them. Emergency services use them for medical calls when someone is unresponsive inside a locked room. The tools serve legitimate emergency functions, but that same functionality becomes a threat when misused. It is the same dilemma as any dual-use technology. Encryption protects privacy. It also protects criminals. Lockpicks serve legitimate purposes for locksmiths. They also enable burglary. Underdoor tools provide emergency access. They also enable theft and corporate espionage. Society accepts these trade-offs. We do not ban encryption because criminals use it. We do not ban lockpicks despite their misuse potential. We likely will not ban underdoor tools either. That means the vulnerability persists. The gap exists by law. The handles exist by law. The tools exist by commerce. The only question is whether building owners take the threat seriously, whether they implement the protections available, whether they prioritize physical security equally with digital security. The average warehouse or manufacturing facility, minimal physical security beyond access control. And access control only works if the physical lock cannot be bypassed. If you can open the door without credentials, the access control system is theatrical security. It looks impressive, it makes people feel safe, but it does not actually prevent unauthorized access. Theater, not security. The statistics from 2025 penetration testing reports are sobering. Core Security's annual report showed 51% of businesses exclusively use third-party penetration testing teams. 81% perform network scanning. 68% focus on application testing. But physical penetration testing, far less common. Maybe 20% of companies conduct regular physical security assessments. The rest assume their locks and cameras are sufficient. They assume nobody would attempt physical access when digital attacks are so prevalent. They assume wrong. Advanced persistent threats use physical means. APT actors impersonate employees or contractors. They use social engineering to gain entry. They plant malicious devices once inside. They tamper with equipment. They conduct reconnaissance, all enabled by physical access. And physical access is often easier than people think. Creating fake badges that pass visual inspection, social engineering receptionists and security guards, using pretexts to gain trust, all of these techniques work. All of these techniques get documented in penetration tests, and all of these techniques succeed at rates that should alarm any security professional. 28% of respondents saw increased physical security incidents in 2021 and 2022, up from 20% in 2020. Verizon's 2023 Data Breach Investigations report found 74% of breaches involve the human element. That includes physical access, that includes social engineering, that includes the techniques penetration testers use routinely. The average cost of a data breach reached $4.45 million. The average time to identify and contain a breach was 277 days, almost 9 months. If someone gains physical access and plants persistent backdoors, detection becomes even harder. Network monitoring might miss physical implants. Endpoint detection might not catch hardware keyloggers. Traditional security tools focus on software threats. Physical threats slip through. 94% of organizations that run red team testing face some level of successful penetration. That statistic should not discourage testing. It should encourage fixing the problems before real attackers exploit them. Because if a paid penetration tester can get in with permission, an actual attacker can get in without permission using the same techniques. Use rivets from the secure side, not screws from the outside. Install handle shrouds that block wire access. Rotate handles 90 degrees where possible while maintaining ADA compliance. Reduce door gaps during installation and maintenance. Ensure door sweeps are heavy-duty metal, not brush or vinyl. Add secondary locks that engage automatically. Implement multiple barriers for high-security areas. Train staff to recognize and report suspicious behavior. Conduct regular physical security audits. Test your own doors with an underdoor tool. See how many open, then fix them. The cost? Threshold guards run $20 to $60 per door. Handle shrouds cost $15 to $40. Installation labor varies, but figure 1 to 2 hours per door for a skilled technician. Total cost per door? $100 to $300 including parts and labor. Compare that to the cost of your access control system. The electronic locks, the card readers, the monitoring. You spent thousands per door on the high-tech solution. Spend $100 per door on the low-tech protection. It is proportional risk management. Not exciting, not cutting edge, but effective. Airflow for HVAC systems. Clearance for carpet or tile height changes, fire code requirements in some jurisdictions. For those situations, handle shrouds become critical. A simple bracket or guard that prevents wire access to the handle backside, allows normal operation from inside, prevents tool operation from outside, works on ADA compliant levers, maintains emergency egress capability, costs less than a fancy doorknob. Red Team Tools sells them. They call them lever door handle shroud guards. The product description is honest. Many of you are familiar by now with how effective the underdoor tool attack is. These defenses either large and cumbersome or impractical or prohibited by legal code. This shroud removes the ability for the tool to pull down and engage the lever handle. They offer command strip versions for temporary installations. Screw-less and damage-free. Other companies make similar products. The security industry is slowly catching up, providing defenses for the vulnerabilities they helped create by selling access control without addressing physical bypass. So they get ignored. Until the penetration test, until the audit, until the breach. Then suddenly physical security matters. Then suddenly the recommendations get implemented. Then suddenly budgets appear for threshold guards and handle modifications. Reactive security, not proactive security. The expensive way to learn. $0 for YouTube training videos. 10 minutes of practice. Then you can bypass doors that protect systems worth millions of dollars. Databases containing customer records, intellectual property worth billions, trade secrets, financial data, personal information, healthcare records, all sitting behind doors that open with a wire tool. The asymmetry is staggering. Defense costs thousands. Attack costs $40. Defense requires coordinated installation across hundreds of doors. Attack requires one door, one gap, one moment when nobody is watching. Defense requires maintenance and monitoring. Attack requires 30 seconds. The economics favor the attacker by absurd margins. That imbalance needs correction, not through banning tools, through hardening targets, making attacks harder, making costs higher, making success rates lower. In 2024, researchers excavated a building scheduled for demolition in Seattle, former corporate office, closed 3 years earlier. They found a device hidden behind a filing cabinet near a network port. Raspberry Pi with cellular modem. Still powered, still transmitting. Nobody knew it was there. Internal network had been compromised for 3 years. The investigation traced it back. Someone gained physical access during building occupancy, planted the device, left. Device phoned home. Attackers had persistent access to internal network, exfiltrated data, monitored communications, waited for valuable information. Nobody caught it until building closure. That breach cost the company millions in settlements, regulatory fines, reputation damage, and it started with physical access. Someone got in. Someone who should not have been there. Got in and planted persistent access. How did they get in? Door gap and wire tool suspected but never confirmed. Building had been renovated 3 years before the breach. New access control installed. Electronic locks, card readers, cameras, the works. But nobody addressed physical bypass. Nobody installed threshold guards. Nobody rotated handles. Simple oversight. Expensive outcome.